increasing soybean productivity. We're obviously, I'm pretty enthused about that.
No, I could tell that, yeah. And that's good. And problems we don't even know yet what they may be. Challenges that are out there, you can go back now because as you have this sequencing, and as they develop, you can go back and find solutions, and hopefully, right?
Yeah. Well, for instance, soybean rust, which showed up here in the fall of 2005 in Louisiana. Brand new problems like that are bound to show up again. Similar aphid, of course, is a problem that showed up a year or two before that. But these are things that we can address as new problems crop up. We're going to be in a position to have a germplasm collection that's completely classified genetically to solve these problems with greater speed and efficiency.
Dr. Borma, where do you see us going with this?
Dr. Cregan mentioned the Asian soybean rust, and I think that's a really wonderful example of the progress that has been made very recently. Iowa State, a scientist at Iowa State recently found and sequenced a gene for resistance, and that'll fit very nicely now that we have the blueprint of what one resistance gene for Asian soybean rust looks like. Look throughout the soybean germplasm collection for additional sources of resistance. So it's just that technology basically in the last several months has already shown, I think, an enormous leap forward in what we can do, and fits very nicely with what Perry is talking about, Dr. Cregan's talking about in terms of utilizing this technology in order to get something to the field.
Rick, as a soybean grower, this has to make you feel pretty good that these guys are working on these types of things. It's going to help you and other soybean growers around the country deal with whatever challenges you're facing.
Oh, you're right. There's a lot of benefits to American soybean farmer, and the number one benefit is new varieties faster. And every farmer will look forward to that, hopefully coming out with an increased yield. The second area of great satisfaction is hopefully increased traits that'll better meet the end users. We can look at that as basically better quality meal, whether it be low phytate or high sucrose, which will meet the animal ag needs, which is our number one user in America, or it may meet with better quality oil, being low lin or middle oleic oils, which will help the soy food industry. Good
point. Let me come back to Dr. Cregan. This isn't just all what can be done in the future. We're seeing some results right now, right?
Certainly altering, fatty acid levels for low lin or higher oleic fatty acid is here now. I think soybean rust resistance will be here relatively soon when we start pyramiding those genes. Yeah, a number of these things are happening and will happen, I think, more quickly.
Dr. Borma, I mean, you see that in the varieties that are being bred now, the changes that are going on already because of the research that's already been done.
Yeah. Mike, I think one of the things that we see a lot of discussion about is how the cost of seed is increasing. And I would be the first to admit that in fact is true. What one must think about, though, I think, is what one is getting in addition in that bag compared to what one was able to achieve, say, 10 years ago. And I think that's the real payoff of all this technology is being able to more quickly adjust a variety, if you will, to a new race of a Phytophthora organism or Asian soybean rust or some other disease, and I think we're already seeing that having occurred, and I think because of that, I think there's some concern on the other end that it seems like the seed that now has more in it costs more, and that's a fact.
Well, Rick, that's understandable. As a farmer, you're looking at your input costs, and you say, hey, that does cost more, but you have to look big picture. What am I getting from that? What advantages do I have and benefits I have now that I wouldn't have had before without being able to use this type of seed technology?
Yeah, well, you're definitely right with that. I mean, you're looking at the new varieties, and increased yield is every farmer gets paid by bushels. And if we can increase yields with genomics or biotech or even conventional breeding, increased yields will definitely benefit every farmer. But we also have to look at our end users, as I mentioned earlier. If we can benefit the animal ag industry by bringing new traits and new varieties to them, it'll benefit the whole entire industry all the way down the value chain. If we can benefit the international market or by coming up with a better quality bean that'll emphasis on an international market, the whole entire value chain will be increased with increased prices.
And one thing we hear from our foreign customers, they are concerned about the quality of our soybeans.
Oh, that's definitely a concern we hear all the time. They're always looking for that 35% protein and 19% oil, and that's definitely a mark that American farmers have to strive to meet.
Now you have, the Soybean Checkoff has put together a production research guide. Tell us about that.
This is something new that we're bringing out, that the Checkoff has brought forward. It's something from the production committee that is bringing forward, and it's going to be in this next issue of Beyond the Bean. And that's a news article put out by the Soybean Checkoff. And this research guide will bring forward the areas that the production committee is working in, which includes genomic information, which may include pest resistance or weather resistance, and it'll include areas of collaboration and show the different Checkoff partners.
And they can go to?
And to get that, if you don't already get that information, if you don't already get the Beyond the Bean, you can go to unitedsoybean.org, which is the Checkoff's website.
And again, this type of research that we're talking about, these exciting new results, because of Soybean Checkoff investment.
Yep, you're right on that again. The Checkoff dollars started very early on, and we continue to invest the farmers' dollars through the Checkoff very, very efficiently and effectively.
Dr. Cregan, let me ask you, as a researcher, how important is it to have that investment by the Soybean Checkoff?
Well, our whole genetic marker development, as I said, beginning in 1995, of course we have our in-house USDA effort, which pays all our salaries and our laboratory and equipment and all, but those extra dollars that are required to develop these DNA markers, a great deal of DNA library construction, which is kind of an esoteric thing, but sequencing these fragments to determine where they differ so that we can develop markers. Much of that has been funded over, as I said, the past, since however many years that is, 14 years by the Checkoff. And many of the soybean, in fact, most of the soybean breeders, I think, are using those markers and began right early on using them. And this came out of the Checkoff initiative, yeah.
Dr. Borma, you're seeing the results.
Yeah, I think one of the points that as a seed breeder that's really important is that with the farmer providing funds, the farmer's also directing where the research is going. And I think that's something that's often missed in this thing, as opposed to scientists making their own decisions what they might like to do, or maybe doing more fundamental research than what the farmer feels is in their best interest at this time. The Checkoff system actually provides us a great deal of direction in what we're doing, and I view that as a very positive thing. Plus, they bring to the table a lot of times a number of experts from processing and other areas of the industry that we otherwise would have a difficult time accessing. So I think that's a very important contribution.
But that's a good point to how this process works. You hear from soybean farmers around the country say, here's a problem that we have out here. What can we do about it? That starts the ball in motion, doesn't it, and works its way all through these channels, and then we wind up with a breakthrough like this.
Yeah, well, the Soybean Checkoff is made up of 68 farmer leaders from around the soybean growing region. And the production committee itself is made up of currently 12 members. And we're from throughout the growing regions. Every farmer leader on the production committee is from a different state. And each year there seems to be a different problem affecting the farmer leaders, even on the production committee, let alone the 68 farmer leaders on the entire board. So if there is a problem affecting one of the leaders, or even outside of the farmer, just we hear from it, and then we RFP the process, which brings in researchers like Dr. Cregan and Dr. Borma to bring projects forward, and then the committee goes through and selects them to see where the project best fits the entire industry.
So there you have it. That tells you what we're talking about here, and we're going to give you a chance to ask some questions about what this means to you as soybean growers, and what you can do with this type of information, and what we're looking at the future of the soybean industry. We have our researchers with us. We have a soybean grower and someone who sits on that committee who helps make these decisions about funding with the Soybean Checkoff dollars to make all of this possible. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be taking your questions. So we want you to start dialing now. If you have a question for our panel tonight, here's the number to call. You see it on your screen, 1-866-547-9696. Again, that is 1-866-547-9696 as we open the door to a brand new future of soybean research and production by sequencing that soybean genome. We want to get your questions. We'll come back and take those on Monday Night Live here on RFD-TV. Stay with us.